and welcome back. This is Sherry with Heart and Soulful back in the studio with a pile of unfinished journals. Some finished, some not so much. So I wanted to do this video because it's just me going through what to work on next. And I found a finished journal that I had forgotten I had done in the last group. I've made a couple more that I'm going to put listed in my Etsy shop. And then I have some that I had made, not intending to sell, but I wanted to show them to you again because I have a bunch of old book covers that I'm going to go through and turn into journals. And I guess, want to hear from you which kind you might be interested in, because I have some that are more junk journaling type and then more art journaling type. So maybe I'll show those at the end. How about that? I'll show these at the end to get your idea of what you would like me to see me make out of my book covers. But first I'll show you the ones that I do have ready that will be listed in the Etsy shop, and I will put links down below. So the first one I actually had shown in the vintage French style series. I don't remember what I even called that, but I'll put a link down below to that series. It's the one that I just finished. So I did have this. It's a much smaller size. You can see this one measures about almost 4 3/4 wide, and it is 6 3/4 inches tall, and it has a 3/4 inch spine. Looks like that's about it. Okay, so that's the first one. It's a naked journal. That means I've put all the pages in. It was made with a recycled book, some actual book page, some digitals, some just coffee and tea stained lined papers, different types of paper so you get different texture. I really like how a book tactile feels. So I like different kind of papers, some folded in different ways, but all kind of just ready to go for your creativity. So I wanted to do some of these because I have sold all of the ones that I have been showing are gone already. And I did have a few more people ask about them. So this way I will have a few more in there. This one obviously is smaller, but I didn't put a spine on it, a decorative anything, so you can still do that. It just, if you don't want to build the book yourself, it's just done that part of it for you. As far as tea staining, coffee staining, all that to the paper, maybe you don't want to do all that part. So this one is done and ready to go. You can put a closure on it. You can add something here, do what you want inside. So that one's available. Put that one aside. And then next I did this one. I'm going to put this one aside here. Next I did this one, and I found it was a book that it didn't have this lace on it, but it was a book, if you recognize it, that I did in a video quite a while ago, a different type of binding with these little posts. So I wanted to go ahead and finish it. I didn't have any pages in it. I just had done the cover. So I will link in case you want to know how to make this type of book cover. I was inspired by this book. I purchased a couple of these at an antique store and used them to make these ephemeral holders. And I have videos on this, but it has this post type. And the nice thing about that is you unscrew them and you can remove the pages, rearrange them, add to, take away, whatever you want. So I thought that would be fun to do as a journal cover. So I ordered a bunch of little posts, and so I can make more of those with vintage books. So I had done one. I went ahead and added the pages to this one. So I'll go ahead and do a flip through of this one. And the one thing, if you're going to make something like this, and I will put, I believe in the video of the how-to of this one, I will have, the materials that you need and all that. So I won't add them here, but I will put a link to the video that I showed how to make this. But the one thing that I would add about it, if you're going to make a book like this, now that I've done this one, is I think it works better on a larger size book, or at least on one that has a wider page. And the reason being is this area here is really inaccessible as far as working on the page, and you really need to score the edge so that it folds over nice. Otherwise, they all kind of just want to not lay nicely while you're trying to work on them. So the narrower your page, the less you lose, about a half an inch. So you have less working space here. So that would just be this one's fine, I think. If you're someone that wants to take the pages out to work on them, then it's really not a problem at all. I did go ahead and do this in signatures, but each signature maybe only has, 2 or 3 pages. And that I did just because if you did the folios singly, it would be, just this one folded in half and then just this one folded in half. So you'd have the same paper back to back. So I did little small signatures so that I would at least have different, this is a pocket, different papers right next to each other. So that's kind of, let me get in here a little closer for you. So I have some of my printed digitals, some that I purchased, some printed book page, some original book page, some, copies of fabric that I've dyed, copy and tea stained fabrics, just a variety of things. Some old dictionary page that's been tea stained, receipt paper, lined paper, it's been folded. So just lots of little blank pages. Again, a naked journal so that you can do whatever you want inside and your own creativity. But again, for those of you who don't want to actually collect all the papers or tea stain and coffee stain and all that, you don't have a printer that you want to print all these digitals, that kind of thing. So this would be the book for you, one that you can just make your own. The nice thing about this one is you can take the pages out, like I said, and I'll show you how you do that. So that if you wanted to stitch on your sewing machine, add pockets and all that sort of thing, maybe your book gets too thick and so you want to take some pages out. Maybe you want to use some of the pages for your pockets, like you remove a page and use this patterned one for cards and things. So that makes this really handy. You can do the same with another book. You can just tear the pages out and use them as decoration. But this one makes it really easy because you can actually remove them without having to tear them out. So I haven't counted how many pages are in each one of these, but I will put it in the description when I list them in my Etsy shop. So that's this one. Now to get these apart, it's just a little screw, and I think I've just kind of hand tightened these. You don't really have to have a screwdriver. You just turn that and it will come off like so. And then you would do the same for the other ones. And then these just would come out. So it's just kind of a handy other way to bind a book. And I can't remember how many of these little things I bought. I don't think they were expensive. I'll have to find my link that I did. I'll put this together later. So anyway, that's another one. I went ahead and added the lace. This one spine was intact and in good shape, but it was much faded. If you can kind of see, it's kind of a coffee color underneath instead of the blue. And that was just that the spine had faded that much. So I just added the lace just for a little decoration. You can add a closure if you want or not. So that one also will be in my Etsy shop. Okay, and then the last one that I made, I really liked how grungy this cover is. And I really love this cover. I don't need to keep another journal for myself right now. I have so many that I'm working on, but I'm always tempted. It's hard to kind of get rid of these really grungy ones. I remember when I purchased this one in an antique store, and I just love going through antique stores, and just their old book section is just always a really dangerous place for me. But I remember this one was just in super bad shape. It just had lots of staining on it, which if you're into grungy things, I really like that. It even still had the original photo, which is attached to the front of the cover. It's really damaged, but I went ahead and put a layer of glue over the top of it just to try to keep it intact. but it's just, if you like grungy things, this is an authentically grungy cover. The spine was in rough shape, but the fabric was still there. So I really had to do a lot of reinforcement of this one. So what I did, similar to the in the last video where I had put a book together with the flaps, I did this one similarly, except I went ahead, because the spine was so fragile, I used a piece of scrim that actually goes to about here on the sides, and I just glued that down to the cover before I ended up putting this in. But then I did the same kind of floating spine, so you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see in there, that I have that gauzy fabric glued right to this. And then I did my recycled material little floating spine, just the same way that I had done the other ones. But because I already had this little wing and I did need to replace the paper on the front, I went ahead and just did it in fabric. And this isn't an old fabric. It has a vintage look to it. And I did some experiments trying to make, this was the original fabric, and it was actually just a pillowcase that I took apart. And then this, I tried to bleach it out just to get the color faded. And the funny thing is, newer fabrics and the bleach they make now is really hard to actually get the color out. So it maybe slightly did it, but not much at all. And I left it in for quite a while. And then I also threw a tea bag in just to try again. And it really didn't change it. Almost not noticeable at all. So what I did is I used the reverse side so that it wasn't so dark. I didn't want it to be so new looking, even though it was vintage, kind of a vintage pattern. I wanted it to look really faded and old. So I used the reverse side. I cut it so that it went all the way to the edge. So that way I've just done the same procedure, but I just glued it all the way down instead of just to here. And then I just, you know, wasn't too careful about how much glue I put inside because I wanted it kind of grungier. And then I even went ahead and used some Distress Oxide just to kind of dirty up these edges, just to make it look a little old and stained. So that is the cover. Then I did put this piece of crocheted, kind of tatted, lacy piece. And this was the piece in its entirety. I don't know if it was cut away from something else or what it was used for, but that was the exact size of my scrap, and so it just fit perfect. So I went ahead and put that on the front. Didn't do a closure. I'll leave that up to the next home, but I'll go through the pages. They're just some of my dyed, you know, hand-dyed tea stain. This one came out kind of a pinky color. I think that was with avocado probably, or something. I'm not even sure. Onion maybe. Some old book page, some tissue paper, some old music page. This is actually a old wallpaper piece from Graphics Fairy, but I took it, altered it, and then just printed it on some of my tea stain paper. So it's printed onto, I don't know if you could see this, it's printed onto linen paper. So it has that vintage wallpaper look. It looks like actual wallpaper. I like making my own paper. I mean, you can sometimes find old wallpaper books, but if you can't, or you want it to look a certain age, you can really, you know, kind of make them your own. Some other, this was a kit that I've listed in the last series I did, that's just kind of a vintage ephemera, and then you print it on like newsprint or something like that, and it really gives you that old kind of look. I really liked this one because of the way the book had been bound. I put that in the center of each of my signatures. This one has 3 signatures. And again, I'll put the number of pages in the description when I do that. Oh, and one thing I like to do is my thread I used is white. So I can take my dauber with my vintage photo and just kind of dirty that up too. Some manila paper. Should I get in here a little bit closer? And this is actually some old ledger. And again, when I needed to, I reinforced with some washi tape. Okay, that's the first signature. So these are pretty large signatures. I think I may have a dozen folios in these. Again, another piece of faux wallpaper. I'll call it faux because I made it look like old wallpaper. Took the pattern, and then because of how I altered the colors and printed on a certain type of paper. Another little pocket. This one I added a piece of doily to that had been coffee stained. Again, the center of my signature. I like that. And these pages, you can see how they are. That is the actual age of the page. I didn't do anything to that. That is just that the book was very old. Some old music. I just like how all the pages, that was the end of the second signature, have an old, even if they were made, some of them, like I said, are originally old pages that are all yellowed. But then the ones that are new, I try to make look old. So you just really get that kind of aged book feel. This is another wallpaper pattern. Again, the center. So hours and hours of fun to decorate these pages. Okay, that's the end of that one. So this will also be available in my Etsy shop. Okay, so the next we'll have those I'll have those three, and then this is just kind of, these are journals that I don't know if I would sell these. I wouldn't. I started working in these, but this is, I'll show you these first, I guess. These are art journal style, so I've used like mixed media paper inside, and they are made even though they're with an old book cover. And I have covered how to do these in previous videos, so I'll find those and put the links down below. But this is so that you can lay the pages. I guess I need to go out again. This is so that you can lay the pages flat and work on them. So they're with either watercolor paper or mixed media paper. I can do them with either one or a mixture of those, so that you can just do your spreads on those and have them lay flat. So are you interested in this style of a journal that has maybe an old book cover? So let me know, and I can make more of those. This is similar thing. This one I made, it's a little smaller, as you can see. This one obviously is with an old book cover. This one is with a cover I just made out of recycled material, so it's a thinner cover, but great for, you know, a mixed media art journal. So I even did the cover in that kind of mixed media style. So I can do that where I make my cover and paint it, and then inside, same thing. This is mixed media paper. I believe this one was watercolor paper. That I did this one so that I would have a place to maybe do some collage with my jelly prints. And you can see I've made the books, but I have not been working in them. So that's another goal, that I want to work on these. This one I could sell because I haven't done anything in it, but it is an old book cover that I've then hand painted in a mixed media style. So I can do that too, and it actually has some, you know, metal things on it. So if you like this style where it's mixed media paper inside or watercolor paper, where you can lay them flat and work on them, but with a mixed media painted journal on an old book cover. So 3 different kind of variations of that. If you're interested in anything like that, let me know and I can make something up. And then these 2, this one I'm not sure if I'm going to sell or not. I love this one. It's super grungy. And I think it's the first one maybe that I had done in this exposed spine style. And I do have video, series on this one called The Elocutionist. So I'll put a link again for this, the video series that I did for this. They're not journaled in, but I did start decorating it, and it's quite far along. And I think I have done videos in this series. I have some things clipped that I was thinking about that I haven't finished. So this is another one that I can work on. I know in the last video I mentioned 2 that I had in bins. These weren't in bins. These were just on my shelf, and so that's why I didn't realize that I had these working on. But I could do some more. This one does have actual vintage wallpaper. A lot of these are vintage wallpaper pages in this one because I had a book. I think I've mostly used everything up in that now, but anyway, I haven't, obviously done those pages, but I was clearly still working on this one. So I haven't decided if when I'm finished with this one I would sell it or not. I really was having a lot of fun doing the decorating for this one. So that one I do want to finish, and then I can decide if I'm going to sell it or not. And then this one was another one, I can't remember. I was going to do, I really like the cover. Again, old book cover. And with a covered spine where I did it with one of my rusted fabrics. And I really like that grungy look too. I did intend to start working on this one to follow along with, this is old. This is like from a couple of years ago, I think. But I took from Meg Journals, her Junk Journal July thing that she was doing with just some inspiration. So if you're working on, maybe you have your naked journal and you don't know what you want to do with it, maybe you get an inspiration list like this from someone that does those. I know she does a lot of these for, I don't know if it's an annual thing, but there are lots of creators out there that are putting these kind of things on YouTube. So you can just find somebody's list of inspirations and then start doing a thing. So I had only done the first day, begin. So it's really, kind of a art journal-y-ish kind of thing that I was doing again. At least that was my intention. So maybe I go and actually start working in this using some inspiration. But again, it's just a naked journal too. So if you like this kind of small format, these are a little bit smaller. I like this one is kind of 5 inches by 7 1/4, and then just maybe a 3/4 inch, about an inch spine, something like that. So if you like working on a smaller, I have a lot of small books that I could do. It's similar to the first one I showed, is that kind of size. To do some kind of one of those, I forget what they call these. I don't know if they call it a monthly challenge or whatever it is, but where you're doing a journal following a specific thing, list of inspirations. So that was what that was intended to be. So if you like that kind of size, with some kind of cute little grungy thing, let me know, because I do have a lot of small books to turn into journals. Okay, so that's what I have. Things I'm working on and journals that I will have available by the time this video is up. So get them while you can. I will continue to try to make some while I have all these papers and things available. So that is it for today. Have a great rest of your day and go make something. Bye.